I began using photography as a means to an end. So that was sort of interesting from the beginning. Even when I did portraits or photographed my dancers, I never just took one picture. I always took a number of them. I always had to take at least 3 to tell the story. I always wanted to tell the story. And I felt that visually you had to do it by multiplying the images. And then slowly one thing led to another, and I started building things as props for the photos, and then the props became more important than the actual results, the photographic results. So I would build things and make things. And eventually I always incorporated photography into it somehow, but I realized even back then I was kind of doing a sort of photo painting. I was always creating an environment, telling a story. Painting without paint, painting with photography in a way. When I take multiple images from different angles or different perspectives, or even crawling up the subject in one form or another, it makes me feel as if I'm getting closer to the essence of that thing or person or element. Crawling up the trunk of a tree and focusing on the bark and the way it evolved while I climbed that tree tells me everything I need to know about that tree that I was interested in, that made me so curious. And I love that, and I kind of fall in love with the subject. It's like it's a little bit like dancing a duet with your subject in a way. You know, you're interacting with them in a way that's very personal, that's very intimate. One of my first exposures to art was comic books. Loved, and still do love comic books when they're well made. There's a similarity between the way I work and the way comics work, the way the graphic novel evolves. Essentially, we're talking not about documenting or reproducing life in real time, but actually what I find fascinating is creating that sequencing with the intervals, because during those intervals, the viewer's brain has to make that leap, and it becomes an interactive experience. I used to use a little corner store to do my proofs, and once they came back in the form of a little mini strip with a lot of white between the images, that sparked this incredible realization that if I pushed that no-cut button on the machine that provided the proofs, I could get a continuous print of an uncut roll of negative film. So once I realized I could do one full strip, I realized if I can do one, I can do many, and then I could juxtapose them. And this could become a huge piece, an installation. I could put it anywhere. You know, it just became this great opportunity. I could have people go through it because it's like a curtain in a way. I really feel I want to draw people into what I felt and what I saw when I was making these things, because it was a profound experience. And I think there's a meditative aspect to it that I think is beneficial. It opens up passages in your brain that perhaps weren't there before. It's more the enjoyment of discovering a different perspective, a different way of looking at the spines of a book, or the skies from different parts of the world, or the waters, or the grass, or whatever. I'm not there to provoke, I'm just there to say, hey, check this out, you know. What's fascinating with the way the relationship with the camera has evolved for me is that after decades of going through the traditional 35mm, all kinds of lenses, hanging off helicopters, doing aerial photography, doing landscape photography, in the end, my favorite, absolute best source of image capture ends up being the iPhone. Going digital was a major breakthrough for me, because then I didn't have to depend on labs so much, which were costly, and you couldn't experiment as freely. So once that chain was cut, I really started feeling much freer. It's very interesting how one thing evolves from another, right? But even almost from the start, I was always trying to come off the wall. My photographs were always trying to come off the wall and inhabit different space, either huge space or even sculptural format. What we are normally used to seeing above us, untouchable, unreachable, can actually be placed in a place where we can touch, reach, step on, or walk through. To this day, I haven't finished exploring. I feel like I'm constantly trying new things. I cannot imagine, not for 1 minute, not having art in my life. I mean, it's almost like not having air. It's almost like not being able to see. When I look at art, it's to give me inspiration to see other people doing the same thing, to feel part of that big tribe, but also to inspire me to make something, inspire me to go out and produce more. You know, I get ideas and I want to try this and I want to try that. But it's in the making that you get. The real therapy is in the making. There's no question in my mind. And I think that, I mean, and it can be as simple as putting together a string of beads that have color and texture, and you have to make aesthetic decisions around what goes where and the sequence and all that stuff. It's always sequencing, by the way. So for me personally, it was what saved me from a lot of depression and a lot of difficult times, because it gave me a reason to get up in the morning. And it still does.